Scrum Methodology, Episode 2. Scrum Artifacts, Product Backlog, Sprint Backlog, Increment. Scrum artifacts include the Product Backlog, which lists all features to be developed, the Sprint Backlog, which lists the activities to be completed during the sprint, and the Increment, which represents the sum of all features completed up to that point. Product Backlog. The Product Backlog in Scrum is a prioritized list of all requirements, features, improvements, and work items that need to be developed for the product. It is the responsibility of the product owner to manage the product backlog and ensure it is always up to date and reflects customer and stakeholder needs. The product backlog represents a dynamic and prioritized list of elements that drive product development. It is an essential tool for planning sprints and ensuring that the development team is working on the most important and valuable features to the customer. Product Backlog Key Points. Product Backlog Content. The product backlog can contain different types of items, such as user stories, bugs, improvements, technical tasks or support requests. These elements represent what needs to be developed or improved for the product. They are described in a clear and understandable way, so that the development team can understand the demands and value of each element. Priority. Items in the product backlog are sorted according to their priority. The product owner is responsible for setting priorities, based on business value and stakeholder needs. The highest priority items are those that bring the most value to the product and that need to be developed or improved first. Product backlog changes. The product backlog is dynamic and may change over time. The product owner works with stakeholders and the development team to make backlog changes in response to new needs, customer feedback, or discoveries during development. Items can be added, removed, or reprioritized to best reflect current requirements and priorities. Progressive detail. Items in the product backlog can be described in sufficient detail for the development team to understand during sprint planning. However, the level of detail can vary based on where items are placed in the backlog. Items with a higher priority are often defined in more detail, while those with a lower priority can be described in more summary terms. Collaboration and sharing. The product backlog is a communication and collaboration tool. The product owner works closely with the development team to ensure a common understanding of backlog items and to respond to any questions or clarifications requested by the team. Sharing the product backlog with stakeholders is also a way to gather feedback and make any necessary changes. Sprint Backlog. The sprint backlog in Scrum is a set of items selected from the product backlog to be developed during a specific sprint. It is a list of tasks, user stories, or work items that the development team commits to complete by the end of the sprint. In summary, the sprint backlog represents a list of tasks or work items selected from the product backlog to be developed during a specific sprint. It is owned by the development team, who strive to complete tasks by the end of the sprint to deliver the expected value. Sprint Backlog Key Points. Item selection. During sprint planning, the development team works with the product owner to select work items from the product backlog to include in the sprint. These elements must be sufficiently defined and understood by the development team to be completed in the sprint. Task breakdown. Items selected from the product backlog are broken down into smaller, more manageable tasks during sprint planning. These tasks represent the specific activities that the development team must perform to complete the work item. Tasks are estimated in terms of time and effort required to complete. Development team ownership. The sprint backlog is the exclusive property of the development team. It is the team that decides how to organize and complete the activities during the sprint. The team organizes itself to assign tasks to members and to collaborate on feature development. Status tracking. During the sprint, the development team tracks the progress of their work in the sprint backlog. Each task is monitored to identify any obstacles, delays or need for adjustments. Work status is updated regularly to ensure transparency and visibility of progress. Adjustments during the sprint. During the sprint, the development team can adjust the sprint backlog in response to new information or changing needs. For example, new user stories may emerge or changes may be needed to address obstacles or respond to stakeholder feedback. These adaptations are addressed in collaboration with the product owner. Sprint backlog completion. The development team's goal is to complete all sprint backlog activities by the end of the sprint. At the conclusion of the sprint, the team presents the completed work during the sprint review, and the product owner evaluates whether the selected items have been satisfactorily met. Increment. In Scrum, an increment is a tangible and potentially releasable result that the development team delivers at the end of each sprint. The increment represents the work completed by the team during the sprint and is a step forward in the product development process. Increment is an essential element of the Scrum process, as it provides a tangible result that can be evaluated and used to obtain feedback from stakeholders. Through successive increments, the development team works to deliver a product of value and meet customer needs. Increment key points. Usable feature. Increment consists of features that were fully developed, tested, and integrated during the sprint. These features must be usable by the customer or end users, even if the product as a whole may not be complete yet. Delivered value. Increment provides recognizable value to the customer or end users. Each increment should bring at least a small amount of added value to the product and can be evaluated based on its use or its ability to meet customer needs. Continuous integration. The augmentation is integrated with previous work so that the overall product is functional and consistent. The development team ensures that the augment is compatible with existing functionality and does not create conflicts or problems in the system. Inspection and adaptation. The increment is reviewed during the sprint review, allowing the product owner and stakeholders to evaluate the work completed by the development team. This feedback can influence future decisions about priorities and changes to the product backlog. Cumulative over time. Each successive increment builds on the previous ones, expanding and improving the product over time. The goal is to obtain an increasingly complete and functional product with each successive sprint. Sprint execution. During the execution of the sprint, the development team works to complete the activities of the sprint backlog. This involves working together on a daily basis, managing obstacles, and constantly updating progress. Definition of done. The definition of done, DoD, in Scrum is a list of criteria that establishes when a work item can be considered completed and ready to be considered done or done. It is a set of standards and requirements that must be met for each product backlog item before it can be considered delivered. The definition of done helps ensure the quality of work and provide a clear definition of what it means to complete a task or user story. The definition of done is a shared agreement within the development team and is applied to all work items in the product backlog. Ensures a common understanding of completion requirements and provides guidance for evaluating the work performed. It is important that the definition of done is clear, realistic and regularly reviewed and adapted to ensure that the development team delivers high-quality work. Definition of done key points. Functional requirements. The definition of done includes the specific functional requirements that must be met in order for a work item to be considered completed. This could include implementing all required functionality, integrating with other system components or adhering to certain technical specifications. Testing and quality control. The DoD involves testing and quality control to ensure that the work item meets required quality standards. This can include unit tests, integration tests, functional tests, and other product-specific checks. The work item must successfully pass all tests specified in the DoD to be considered completed. Documentation. The definition of done may request the necessary documentation to support the completed work item. This may include technical documents, user documentation, release notes, or any other documentation relevant to ensure proper understanding and use of the completed work. Product owner acceptance. The work item must be accepted by the product owner or a competent authority figure to be considered complete. The product owner verifies that the item meets the acceptance criteria defined for that specific user story or requirement. Submission criteria. The definition of done may include specific submission criteria that must be met in order for the work item to be considered delivered. These criteria can be integration into the production system, release documentation, or any other requirement necessary to make the item available to end users. We have reached the end of the second episode of the Scrum methodology. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact us. It will be an opportunity to explore the topics covered and clarify any doubts. Subscribe to channel Agile Academy and share it with friends. End of episode 2.